Hello and welcome to Secure the Continent and News Central Television. This is the program where we bring you up to speed with all the security happenings on the African continent. I am Gbenga Aborowa. Before we get into the major discussions of this evening, let me first bring you the major security headlines across the continent. Al-Qaeda claims death of 14 soldiers in Mali. Somali president urges citizens to flush out Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabab. Citizens bear the brunt of conflict in Africa, says Human Rights Watch. And DRC accused of using refugees for political purposes. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Somalia's government has declared an all-out war against the militant group Al-Shabab and adopted a multi-pronged counter-terrorism effort. The Al-Qaeda affiliate was driven from Somalia's major cities a decade ago, but still holds control of swaths of countryside where a coalition of armed groups have joined forces against the insurgents in recent months. The government's objective is to seize the current momentum and encourage uprisings across Al-Shabaab-held areas in Somalia. The newly elected President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud outlined his administration's plan against the militants, which includes heating them militarily, choking off their finances, and counter their hardline ideology. The government also threatened to revoke the business licenses of traders who paid taxes to Al-Shabaab and contributed to the millions they raised through extortion. At least 19 people were killed when a Somali military facility was targeted by two simultaneous suicide car bombers last week, Wednesday. The facility in question is located in the Mahas district of the Hiran region, at the heart of the government's offensive against Al-Shabaab terrorists. We have more details for you in this package.
The Somalia government is going all out on its foremost enemy, Al-Shabaab. With decades of fighting between both parties, sending many out of their homes and ending the lives of thousands, the Somalia government is driven to fight harder than ever. Mogadishu, the capital of the country, has been a major target for the terrorist organization, but with leadership troubles previously affecting the country, battling its enemies has proven to be a major challenge. Sheikh Mohammed, in a recent revelation, said the country will face the enemy of the state headlong and fight for its peace, which has since become distant to the country. Car bombings, suicides, and different acts of terrorism have continued to make the nation a security focus. With Kenya just by its side and the government in Nairobi fighting tooth and nail to prevent a major enemy from breaking its ranks, Somalia also feels sometimes lonely in this battle. Recently, in a major victory, the government was able to track and close down about 250 militant connected accounts in 4 banks, shut down networks and the data service of about 70 mobile phones the militants were using for financial transactions. More continental and regional support will go a long way in helping its cause against a group that has proven to have strong affiliations. What the future holds for Somalia as a country depends greatly on how well it conquers its fiercest enemies. Time will tell if the new drive to cast out an age-long enemy will work wonders.
Now, joining me tonight to discuss this today is Evans Mulli. He is a Somali country analyst at WS Insight in Nairobi. I also have Emil Kovacs, information risk analyst at Risk Solutions. He joins in from Dakar in Sénégal. And also I have Mohameddeq Ali Abdi, founder Institute Youth Economic Security and Stabilization in Somalia. Warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thanks for joining me on the program.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Now, I'd like to start with you, Mohameddeq. Who are Al-Shabaab and what are the origins of this group? How have they come up to be such a a formidable threat to the government of Somalia?
First of all, thank you for your invitation. Before I started your question, who are Al-Shabaab? Actually, Al-Shabaab is a group what is to implement Sharia law in entire Somalia. And when we talk Al-Shabaab, Al-Shabaab has to categorize, and I think it's very fundamental to understand deeply if we want to study Al-Shabaab, what they are and what they are standing for. There are two groups, actually Al-Shabaab, they used to be Islamic court, as we know that, I don't want to go back, but the two groups, Al-Shabaab, is one group is Somali Al-Shabaab, and the other group is a group who came Somalia. We can say they are not Somalia, but they came Somalia to feed in the agenda and to spread Somalia the Islamic Sharia law. But the Somalia people who are with Al-Shabaab, they took the message from non-Somalia people, and then they try to spread, or they try to do what the Somalia people are saying. But the question is, we need to ask ourselves, but Somalia is a Muslim country. They are not non-Muslim country, but the question is who Al-Shabaab wanted to target, and why Al-Shabaab always Somalia became a center. Not it's very difficult to defeat them, because as already said to you, mostly they are non-Somali people who came Somalia because of Somalia did not have a strong government who defeated or who controlled the criminal who came to the country. So that's why they came to Somalia, and they saw there is a place they can hide in their agenda as well. They can spread in whatever they want. And these people, they are Somalia people who are with Al-Shabaab. If you speak with them, they did not tell you why they are Somali people they are targeting. And what is very surprising, Al-Shabaab, they did not want to see the intellectual Somalia as well, Somalia intellectual Somalia doctors, because they know when Somalia conscious are awake, they will not be hiding in the society.
Okay,
so
thank you, Mohammed. Let me bring in Emil here for some perspective. Emil, Mohammed said, you know, Al-Shabaab's origins is to, you know, establish Sharia law across all of Somalia, and they've also had their victims. They claim to be spread in Islam, but most of their victims have also been Muslims, because Somalia is a predominantly Muslim country. So my question to you is, what are Al-Shabaab's objectives, and does Al-Shabaab have territorial control, or is it fluid?
Yeah, as we spoke before, Al-Shabaab still has a huge influence and also huge control over vast of areas inside of Somalia. And we can consider they have the major atu in their hands, that they still are better trusted by the locals to instead of the federal government of Somalia, because they have so-called better services. And still, because of the political dysfunction of the federal government of Somalia, they are still in advantage. Now the new administration, when they took office, they had a new strategy in targeting where it hurts Al-Shabaab most, the finances. But still, it's a very long way to go because Al-Shabaab has very, very efficient ways of illicit taxation across Somalia.
Thank you, Emil. Now back to you, Mohameddeq. Last week, around 19 people were killed when a Somali military facility was targeted by two simultaneous suicide camp bombers. The facility in question is located in the Mahas district of the Hiran region. What is responsible for this uptick in violence? We've seen that the government has taken the fight to Al-Shabaab. So if they've taken the fight to them, if there's been an offensive in the last 6 months, how are they still able to carry out an attack of this magnitude?
The attack was taking place in Mahas district in Hiran region. My opinion, it's not something we surprised because Al-Shabaab now faces a lot of pressure from the capital, from the government of Somalia, because the government are using, mobilizing a client. So Al-Shabaab did not, Al-Shabaab trying to do whatever they can, but why it's easy to take place this kind of explosion? Because we need to understand, because mostly people we understand or we heard there is a person, he used to be Al-Shabaab and he left the group as a philanthropy to the government of Somalia, because there is two people, one person, he left the group because he still believed the ideology, but the group sent it to the government of Somalia and he want to carry out an explosion. Let's say, for instance, because this guy, he used to be Al-Shabaab and he left it, and voluntarily he came to the government of Somalia, and the government did not try, they did not send him, this person, rehabilitation school, they did not send him mentally rehabilitation. Automatically, this person, he used to be Al-Shabaab, or maybe he has a good position in Al-Shabaab. Automatically, the government or maybe the district level, they say to him, okay, automatically we can give you this position. And then this person, the only way he came to the government as voluntarily was not to help the government to defeat Al-Shabaab, but the main mission was to attack the government, the basis of the government, because this person, he is a part of the government of Somalia, and the security forces are not worried because he's a part of the security forces. So my argument is this attack is for the Al-Shabaab will continue unless Somali government will have a proper training.
So, Mohameddeq, if I get you right, are you suggesting that there are Al-Shabaab infiltrators within the ranks of the Somali government that is giving Al-Shabaab information? Is that why we had that attack? Is that what you're suggesting?
I did not say Al-Shabaab infiltration, because there is also infiltration. I'm not denying that.
Yes.
But what I am saying to you now, because there is a person, Al-Shabaab, he's voluntarily left the group from the government of Somalia, but still he believed the ideology, and automatically the second day he got a position from the government of Somalia. So how this person can make sure the safety of the people, because still he believed the ideology of Al-Shabaab, and you did not send him rehabilitation school.
Are you talking about the religious minister that was appointed by President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed?
No, I'm not talking about Minister of Religious, yes, but I'm talking each and every person who left the group, because the group is...
I get your point now, that they need more rehabilitation before they're eased back into society. Let me bring in Emil here. Now, when Somalia's new president, Hassan Sheikh Mohammed, took office in May of last year, he declared a top priority, and his priority was bringing an end to the country's 15-year Islamist insurgency. How much of a difference has he made, and does he have a clear strategy on how to defeat Al-Shabaab? In your opinion?
Definitely, it's a new change, a new plan, also with international partners. And here we can mention most the United States, who again re-engaged in Somalia after President Trump decided to pull out troops. So now it's a major operation, and also build-up of U.S. forces are inside Somalia, and they are helping the Somali National Army. And that's why also they had the recent success on the Hiran region, where they conquered territory before held by Al-Shabab. And also we can see that it's a different also in supply of, for example, the Turkish drones, which make a clear difference for the Somali National Army on surveillance, intelligence, and also an attack. So yes, they have a new objective and also a new strategy to defeat and also to end the rule of Al-Shabaab in certain areas. But now the question is, if now the recent success they had, if they can be able to maintain that grip, that what the territory they conquered, and what's the next strategy to convince the local people that they are better than Al-Shabaab.
So beyond, Emil, beyond a military victory here, what else needs to be done to consolidate these gains?
It's the winning the heart and minds of the locals, where they had this double administration, so called. They had also the official one, the FGS, the federal government of Somalia, and they had Al-Shabaab. And most of our time, and also my friends who are in Somalia, they're saying, and also in this region, that the administration provided, the so-called administration provided by Al-Shabaab was much more effective and just than the federal government of Somalia. So definitely here for the federal government is to prove for the local people that they are really there, they are committed, they have a clear strategy. Also now the new strategy from the international community, from the external help, and they have to utilize this advantage to show that this time it's different, and then not allow that, for example, for Al-Shabaab to exploit certain mistakes that can occur, and then it can be successful in how to say, medium and long term.
Thank you, Emil. I'd like to bring in our third guest, who is joining live from Nairobi, Kenya, via phone. His name is Evans Mulli. He's a Somalia country analyst at WS Insight. Joins us live from Nairobi. A warm welcome to you, Evans.
Thank you, Ben.
Now, Evans, how has Al-Shabaab remained capable of carrying out massive attacks in Somalia and surrounding countries, despite a long-running African Union offensive against the Islamist terrorist group?
Ben, just to answer your question, what we have seen despite a sustained operation in the last 6 months is that it's taking the government quite some time and energy to completely dilapidate their capacity and the ability of Al-Shabaab to launch such a large-scale attacks like the one you highlighted in Mahas. However, we can acknowledge that we have seen significant gains over the last 6 months, and these gains continue to be built up on by the government, which intends to reach more areas and have more control and presence in the areas that they have been able to liberate. We must also acknowledge that Al-Shabaab itself as a group has remained resilient for quite a long time, and where it has been facing government counterterrorism measures, either by the Somali government or by ATMIS or by other security partners that are present in Somalia. And they have been able to remain resilient over the years despite all of this pressure. However, what we have seen in the last 6 months is a commendable effort from the authorities to try and diminish the group's ability to remain resilient and to be able to carry out attacks. And I believe we are already seeing signs that this is bearing some fruit.
Thank you, Evans. Now, Mohameddeq, can you discuss the strategic significance of the recent recapture of Masjid Ali from the Al-Shabab militant group? What's the significance of this recapture of this mosque?
The capture of the mosque in Lower Shabelle is one of the main strategic for the government of Somalia, because it's the place where Al-Shabaab prepared so many things to send it to the government, to send it to the capital of Somalia. I do my personally the capture for the masjid in Lower Shabelle. It's one of the defeated that Al-Shabaab has faced since liberated or started. It's not for Lower Shabelle because Al-Shabaab has faced a lot of pressure from Hiran region. So if you just look at the Hiran region, so you can see the map. There is no any district where Al-Shabaab currently are existing. So that means you see all the Hiran district was liberated from Al-Shabaab. So if you look at Lower Shabelle, there is some district, but majority was liberated. But what we are expected from Southwest and Jubaland state, it will be great if the war is continuously as strategically planned. So then Al-Shabaab will not have a pressure, because now they have a lot of space, because if they get a pressure from here,
they can always move to another location, I guess.
Yeah, the location, then they move the other location. So if the war is started everywhere, so then Al-Shabaab will not have space or to stay. I do suggested that the government of Somalia should have strategically war. It's not only Hiran and Lower Shabelle, it's entire Somalia. And when the war started, and they have to rethink after Al-Shabaab, now it's a clan militia who's fighting Al-Shabaab. And the question is, what will come after that?
Yes.
So I don't want to talk now, because now I'm still working that article, but we need the government of Somalia also.
They need to be able to plan for the day after when Al-Shabaab is defeated. What happens to these local militias that are engaging fighting Al-Shabaab currently? And that brings me to this question, Emil. You did talk about the partners, the international partners, the United States airstrikes that have helped to sustain this momentum against Al-Shabaab. Now, can you explain the role of local militias and clans in this anti-Al-Shabaab campaign that we're witnessing and the effectiveness in this fight?
Yeah, definitely it's making a difference, because it draws away human resources and possible new recruits from Al-Shabaab. But here it's a delicate thin line, as we know since the delicate history of Somalia, that always the clan issues and the clan infighting can undermine also a good strategy from the federal government of Somalia and the external international partners. So here it really needs a clear and good balanced dialogue, communication with the federal government and clan leadership, so that they can maintain this good partnership and eventually to being incorporated in the long term in the Somali National Army or security forces or local administration, and try to establish the rule of law across Somalia. Because if they are not successful, and then again we go back that, for example, we see, I don't want to be pessimistic now because the situation it's quite surprisingly good, but we can witness another in Afghanistan. So maybe the international community, they will say we cannot support anymore, and then the public opinion changes. So there's a very, very thin line. But it's now the time to be optimistic. Now the time is there for the President Hassan Sheikh to be a clear statesman, and also for the government, so that they are open for negotiation and also for compromise, not just for political gains. And I think it's feasible in the long term to establish and also to see a brighter future for Somalia.
Thank you, Emil. This is a fine place to go on a break. If you're just joining, this is Secure the Continent of News Central Television. We've been discussing the government's sustained momentum in the fight against Al-Shabaab terrorists in Somalia. Do stay with us. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion on this subject.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa First.
Welcome back to Secure the Continent here at News Central Television. If you're just joining us, we've been discussing the government's offensive against the Somali government's offensive against Al-Shabaab in Somalia. And I still have here with me Evans Mulli, a Somali country analyst at WS Insight. He joins in live from Nairobi, Kenya. I also have Emil Kovacs, information risk analyst at Risk Solutions. He joins in from Senegal. And Mohameddeq Ali Abdi, founder, Institute of Youth Economic Security Stabilization in Somalia. Thanks for staying with us, gentlemen. Now, I'd like to pick up where we left off with Evans. Now, Evans, we've seen an attack that happened last week. 19 people were killed last Wednesday when a Somali military facility was targeted by simultaneous suicide cab bombers. My question to you is this: are these the last throes of a dying horse, or is Al-Shabaab still a formidable threat to Somali national security?
We can't. The attacks we saw in Mahas and what we saw in Mogadishu in October and November are not the kicks of a dying horse. Rather, they are an indication that Al-Shabaab remains a formidable force. And it is unlikely that despite having the operations we've seen throughout Shabelle, that Al-Shabaab will be fully defeated. However, it is just a matter of time. It will not be easy for the Somali government to get rid of the group within a short time. I believe the government has given itself a 2-year time frame to tackle the Al-Shabaab menace, and also to reduce the group's ability to be able to launch attacks across Somalia. So this is still too early to say that the government has fully succeeded in defeating the group. as I had mentioned before, it remains a very agile and resilient terror group across the East Africa region.
Thank you, Evans. Now, Mohameddeq, how has Al-Shabaab adapted their tactics in response to the government's counter-offensive? Because, like Evans said, they're not just going to sit back and wait for the government to hit them. They're still a formidable threat. So what is going on with Al-Shabaab now? How are they responding to the government's offensive?
Actually, Al-Shabaab, they're trying to offensive attack from the government of Somalia, but they know what the government is doing now. It's like clan mobilizing, and clan mobilizing is like a dangerous to Al-Shabaab, because if the clan is becoming or understanding what Al-Shabaab is doing, it's against their traditional, their values, then Al-Shabaab will not have space within the clan community. So my argument is Al-Shabaab is actually, they have no space if the clan wake up and understand that Al-Shabaab is threatened to for instance, in Hira region, there is some clan, they was attacked the Al-Shabaab and they destroyed their home and their houses. So mostly clans, they understand that Al-Shabaab has biggest enemies they have. So that's why the government, they are using as a mobilizer to defeat them. But the other way, what Al-Shabaab, they sit to close their hands and what the gate. No, Al-Shabaab, they are trying to change it strategically, which is like nobody knows who's Al-Shabaab, nobody knows. But Al-Shabaab, what I figured out, what I have currently deeply studied, Al-Shabaab, they want to change it the strategically, which is like, it's not directed to fight, but it's like suicide. And so much, for example, in capital Mogadishu, and where the government of officials are there. So if they suicide in a base for army or something like that, so the people will have little bit scared what happened. So Al-Shabaab, that's what they are going to do, and that's what they want to change it in the next 2 or 3 months. If the government of Somalia did not come up strategically to defeat also that suicide.
Okay, thank you, Mohameddeq. Emil, what we've realized in this discussion we've been having for the past 30 plus minutes is, it's the ordinary people that suffer. It's the ordinary people that are always caught in this crossfire between the government and Al-Shabaab, the civilians. In 2022, Al-Shabaab attacks killed 613 civilians and injured nearly 950 more. This is according to figures from the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. What's the humanitarian impact of this ongoing conflict in local communities in Somalia and the people of Somalia?
It's devastating, and it's a huge sufferance. It has been going on for so long, and it basically destroys communities, families, and villages, and also makes internal displaced persons and refugees. So it's a total human catastrophe which is going on for so long, that we have been witnessing from the 90s onwards, and then still ongoing today. And this is the most hardest part, that even a lot of non-governmental organizations and also governmental organizations which they have funds, they cannot go and to help the local people and ease their suffering. And also we had the climate change, which impact their day lives and access to clean water and also food nutrition. So it's a really terrible situation regarding for the local population, which is caught up in between these two sides, and then always getting these inputs to side one or the other one. But yeah, let's stay optimistic, and then it can change. It's really not. I do not find the words to describe this, because you know it's humans and children and elderly who are suffering. But it needs to be this root cause, which is Al-Shabaab, needs to be eliminated, yeah, you know, as soon as possible. And let's hope that this time, and that we saw these small glimpses of hope, and also with the new change and with the new strategy and with the new partners, it will succeed, and also it will ease the life of the local Somali people and the community.
Thank you, Emil. Now, Evans, according to United Nations experts, Al-Shabaab raised more than $21 million it spent in 2020 on fighters, weapons, and intelligence. Emil actually said, and most people will collaborate this, that in certain areas they've been able to provide services to the people that the government haven't, which in turn helped them to win the battle of hearts and minds. Now, can you help us understand the role of local clan leaders in diminishing Al-Shabaab's financial support, and how else has the government cut its finances?
Thank you for the question, Gbenga. From my understanding is what the government is intending to do in regards to tackling Al-Shabaab's ability to collect taxes is to identify avenues that they have been able to do that. And just as you had mentioned that one of the places they are able to get their taxes from is from setting up services in terms of health or even judicial services that they use to get this money from residents. In terms of having clan elders try and cut off Al-Shabaab, that would be a little bit more difficult in terms of holding, of making clan leaders perform that duty. But I understand what the government is doing. It's putting in place better policies. For instance, the Somali government is working on better KYC policies around mobile money transactions and even the registration of SIM cards and so on, just to try and limit and avoid the use of mobile money platforms by Al-Shabaab. And you're also seeing banking, the banking sector vetting their customers more keenly. We're just having an announcement this week from Somalia's Prime Minister that they have been able, for an unspecified period of time, they've been able to close down 250 bank accounts linked to Al-Shabaab. And this just goes further to show how the group over time has been able to entrench itself into society and also evolve from just being centered on attacking the government or even civilians, from having an economic angle that they have in Somalia at the moment, that they are generating money from these extortion fees that they are able to get from various quarters in Somalia. And that is something, as we have seen with the current offensive that is ongoing, that is an element that the government is really paying keen attention on, trying to stop, as a well-financed Al-Shabaab is a very difficult group to diminish. And I believe that efforts are ongoing to make sure that they are not able to raise any form of taxes or even revenue in the country.
Indeed. Now, Mohameddeq, we've seen the government is not only trying to win this war militarily, there's also battles going on with social services and hearts of mind. My question to you is this: how has the government been successful in gaining the support of local populations in the fight against Al-Qaeda? Because in the past, where you have Al-Shabaab hold territory, when the locals give information to the central government and they come in for attacks, it's the locals that suffer the reprisals from Al-Shabaab for being informants and what have you. So how have they been able to convince them that, look, this time around you're safe and Al-Shabaab are the bad guys?
In my opinion, I think that will take longer because people do not have what we call it human security, because actually when each and every person has guaranteed for their safety, then they can share each and every information for the security, because he did not have a guarantee for the security for his safety. So even though if he saw there is a person who have or who went to suicide in the next street, he will not tell him the security, because if he tells the security forces that he saw a man he went to suicide, so maybe the security, they arrest him, and then the next day they will release him. So my argument is the security, the people of Somalia, they need guaranteed, because the government of Somalia...
What about the Ma'awisli militias? How do they come into the picture here?
I did not get it, your question.
The militias that are fighting on the side of the government, the Ma'awisli militias, how do they come into this picture?
The militia, actually, each clan has a militia, because, for instance, the government of Somalia, the National Army of Somalia, it's like consists of the clan basis. So each clan has own militia.
Okay.
So this militia is coming from the clan militia. So for instance, if clan A wants to negotiate something, so they can go directly their tribe leader to negotiate, because they have the chart of national security army, but
okay.
they took information from their tribe leader. So this militia actually come from the tribe.
Okay, thank you, Mohameddeq. I would just like Emil to have the last say here just before we wrap things up. And if you can, in less than a minute, really appreciate it, because we're fast run out of time. Now, Emil, could negotiations with Al-Shabaab be a possible path to peace? Are they open to it? Is the government considering negotiations? You need to unmute your device, please.
Willing to negotiate with the federal government of Somalia. As we see that former members, they are being nominated as presidents, or they decide to defect from Al-Shabaab. There's a small hope for that, but coming from Al-Shabaab, that, let's go to negotiation, I rule it out, that it's not possible. From the federal government, maybe, but not on this moment. So maybe in a later stage, as also my colleague said, we will see in about 2 years. Let's see where we're going now. But for the moment, no.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Evans, Mulli, Emil, Kovacs, and Mohameddeq Ali Abdi, for being a part of today's program. We do appreciate your insights and contributions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Now, the war with Al-Shabaab has dragged on for 15 years. Little suggests that the militants can be defeated militarily. It is time to start exploring whether another approach can help bring peace President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud's government should take the bold step of testing whether political engagement with Al-Shabaab can serve as a complement to military operations and other policies that seek to weaken the group. Al-Shabaab has thus far been reluctant to engage in success this time around. Is far from guaranteed. A pathway towards talks is unlikely to be the answer on its own, and there are clearly a risk along the way that the government will have to factor into its approach. And balance, though, it's worth trying. Thank you very much for being a part of Secure the Continent today. I'm Gbenga Aborowa. Remember to stay safe. See you next week. Bye-bye.